So we'll get into the farming side now. The nice new part about Farm InHere is all of the data will update daily. So as you have a farm, any ownership changes, equity changes, foreclosure activity, etc., will be updated daily for you. But we'll create a farm first so you can kind of see what it looks like. So to get started, when you're in your farming dashboard here, you won't have any farms the first time you sign in. So you'll see a page that looks like this, and you'll click New Farm. So a couple of ways that you can create a farm area. One is by drawing the boundaries on a map or searching by a location. We'll start by drawing boundaries on a map. So we'll click this button here. And so there's two ways you can draw a farm area. One is by using a Polygon tool, which we'll use, or by a radius. We'll start with Polygon tool. So I'll select this Polygon tool. So let's say, for example, moving forward, I wanted to target this neighborhood here, basically from this Western Ave area over to this Gaffey Street, and then connecting to this 25th Street here. So maybe this is an area that moving forward, I wanted to start reaching out to, contacting, mailing to, etc. So what you can do to start drawing that map area, you see how as I move around, I have this pen that follows my mouse icon. So I can click once, and now I'll see this little point appear on the map and this line that follows me. So I can start moving my mouse over. Let's say I wanted to come down to this edge here. I can click again, another point appears. I can now move the line back over this way to Gaffey Street, click again, another point appears. Move the line up to 25th Street, I'll click again, another point appears, and now I can finish the shape back at that original point here, and I'll click on it once again. So now that I've completed this shape, it's going to tell me a couple of things. First, it's going to tell me the number of properties that are in this map area on this left side here. So it says there are 1,741 properties that are within this map area here. Each of them will have these little dots on them to show me. And also I have the types of properties that are selected in this area. The nice part is you can always filter it ahead of time. So let's say moving forward, I want to make sure I'm only reaching out to single family properties. I want to make sure I exclude any properties that are owned by maybe the city, for example, or maybe that are used for commercial properties, etc. I only want to reach out to single family residences. So what you can do is actually edit the property filters ahead of time. So I'll click edit right here. And what this brings up is a menu where you can add additional filters to the properties that you will capture within this map area here. So some of the filters at first would be property basics. So let's say maybe I'm building a farm for a client to start reaching out to and they only want 2+ bedrooms. Maybe I can filter that. Or by property age, even down to things like estimated value. Let's say I only wanted to make sure I included properties that were, up to 1.3 million. Maybe a client has a top end range for that area. You can apply those filters before capturing all the homes. You can also click back here and get a step further. And let's say, like I said, I only wanted to reach out to single family residences and condos. Maybe those are the two properties. The nice part is as you apply these filters, you'll see the record count updates. So by default, this map area was 1,741 records. But as I come in here and select single family, you see that this reduces to 1,372. It's basically excluded an additional 300 or so properties that are not single family residences. As I click condo, same thing. This updates, now it's 1,511 records. So excluded a couple of 100 properties that are not single families and condos. But like I said, you can come in here and edit these filters here. So I'll click next. Click next again, and now I have the ability to name my farm. So I'll say Coastal San Pedro Farm. Maybe I can spell coastal. There we go. And farm. Whoa. Cool. And I'll click create farm. Just a heads up though, let's say you created a farm and we'll do an after that's larger than 4,000 records. It won't let you create that farm. So you see here, please note each farm has a limit of 4,000 records. So just be aware if you're creating these target areas and it's a big map area, you either need to reduce the size of the area or add some of those filters like property type, characteristics, etc. to get the count of properties under 4,000. So I'll click create farm, and now I'm going to have this farm area created for me. We'll go back and use that other search before we dive deeper into this, but this is all those properties that are within that farm area. So I'll go back to farms really quick just to do the other way to create a farm. Once you're in farming and you have a farm already created, this page will look something like this. So you'll see the farms that you have created, for example, get some nice stats of the total number of properties, How many of those are owner occupied? How many of those are non-owner occupied? The turnover rate, that's a general metric that shows the market activity. How many homes have sold in that area in the last year or so? Essentially 2.3% of the homes in the area have sold. Let's say I wanted to create a new farm. I'll do that here just to show you the second example of how you can create a farm. The first was by drawing boundaries on a map. That's where I went and created that shape. Another option is searching by location. So if I click search by location, how this one works, first it'll have you select a state. I'll choose California. Then it has you choose a county. So I'll choose LA County and click next. Now it will have you select a city or a zip code. You see here now, just this filtered record count, right? 2,399,000. Now I get that message. This filtered count exceeds the maximum allowable records. So clearly I need to do some more filtering, which we'll do. Okay, so I'll do by zip code. I'll choose zip code here and I'll enter 90274 and select it from this dropdown. Once again, I see this filtered record count, right? So once again, too many properties. I need to edit this further. So I can click next. Now it's going to have me choose property types. Maybe in this case, I'll just choose single family, townhome, and condo. This updates for me dynamically, still same thing, too many records. So maybe I'm looking for a client in 90274, what was it, 4. Maybe they're looking for, three plus bedroom, 2 plus bath home, and maybe, max value of 2 million. Maybe that'll help bring some of these counts down. So now you see, boom, now I have a farm for 90274, condominiums, single family residences, and townhomes that are, 3 plus bedrooms, 2 million or less off market, etc. So now I have below 4,000 properties. I can go ahead and click next and create this farm. I'll say 90274 client farm. And now I can make sure I capture all of these properties that meet my client's criteria in the 90274 zip code. I'll click back to farms. That way we're in our main farming dashboard. So here's that first farm we created, that coastal San Pedro farm. Here's that second farm we created. We get the same stats. I personally like map view just to kind of sometimes see where these farms are. If I click map view, I'll see little icons for where that farm is. So here's that first one we created. I can click on it and I'll see a map overview in those same stats. And I should see one for 90274 here. Here's that second farm we created. Or I can click list view and be taken back to here. But I'll do map view for now. And let's go into this farm, this coastal San Pedro farm. I personally, once you're in a farm itself, this is where we see all those property addresses that we captured. I like map view a lot right here. The reason being because as you're interacting with the farm, you get a nice map overview of the farm itself. So you can see each of the properties that are included in this group here. Like I said, this updates daily for me. I also get a nice snapshot of this farm. So how many properties are in here? Like I said, the owner occupied versus non-owner occupied. I think this is a data error at the moment. This should start populating soon, the turnover rate and how long people on average live in this area, along with some other nice stats of average age of the properties. This is a really nice one too. How many properties have positive versus negative equity, the average valuation, and it should bring in some market stats for you as well. The really nice part about being able to engage with the farms on these platforms, though, are the ability to engage with these filters up here. By default, like I said, this farm was capturing single-family residences and condos in this map area. But let's say I wanted to go a step further. I can click filters. By default, this platform will give you some filters to take advantage with. You don't have to create these. So, for example, let's say I only wanted to see the properties in this area right now that were non-owner occupied. And the nice part too on this system now, you see how they have these little icons. I can actually hover over those and get a description of what this is filtering. So if I hover over this, it says properties where the owner's mailing address differs from the property address. So as I click on that, I'll click non-owner occupied. You see how this map updated? Basically what it did is it removed those other properties that were non-owner occupied properties. So now I can come in here and make sure I'm engaging with those, reach out to those on behalf of clients, etc. Or maybe if just my own farming strategy was such that I wanted to start contacting non-owner occupied properties in an area. I can also come in here to properties and see all of the properties within this map area that are non-owner occupied. So a nice way to be able to kind of create these nice target groups, interact with them, etc. Some other helpful filters, and I'll go back to filters here. you can always clear existing filters that you have on in order to go back to the main farm. So I'm in my farm here. Now I see all the properties again. Some other helpful features, like I said, out-of-state owners, those are property owners that own a property here in this map area, but they themselves live in a different state. Really great for, reaching out to people that might just be investors, might not have a strong emotional tie to that property, etc. Some other helpful filters too would be length of ownership filters, starting from things like new homeowners. Let's say you wanted to establish yourself as that farm's realtor, maybe a nice way to introduce yourself. Say, hey, I'm the, neighborhood expert in this farm. I saw you just moved in, etc. Welcome to the neighborhood. And then also going to things like longer term homeowners, so 13 plus years in property, or even like empty nesters. These are properties with owners who have owned the property for more than 25 years. So really great for people that have a ton of equity, maybe are 55 years of age or older. They can leverage Prop 19, etc. Other really helpful touch points too, in my opinion, would be like purchase anniversary. Let's say I click on this filter here. Now this is showing me all the property owners in this farm area that purchased their property in the current month sometime in the past. So really great for just easy touch points with people. Let's say I wanted to introduce myself to people in a farm area every month. I think this is a great way to do it. Just a simple, nice touch point, congratulating them on their home anniversary, seeing if they want a nice snapshot of their estimated equity. And like I said, you can always come back in here to properties, see the properties that are being filtered, and take advantage of the same thing that we did before. You can click on these, get taken to a nice snapshot of that property. I can see exactly when they purchased it. So for example, this person here purchased their home February 28th, 2023. So they're coming up on their 3-year home anniversary. So just a nice simple touch point for someone if I'm looking for ways to introduce myself to homeowners in an area. So that was the purchase anniversary current month. Time to move is a really great one too. So if I click time to move, and like I said, every time you're clicking filters, just pay attention here. It's showing you how it's editing these properties down. So as I clear filters, this is showing all of the farms. I'll click time to move, and now I'm seeing just that filter here. So all the other properties that are not meeting this criteria will go away. Time to move is a great one. People oftentimes will ask us for things like who maybe is more likely to sell in an area. This filter is doing some of that work for you. What it's doing is it's analyzing the sales history of this farm area, saying how long on average do people own their homes in this area before they sell. Then what it's doing is it's finding people that are just under that mark or just over that mark, saying these are people that on average, maybe are more likely to sell. So nice way to kind of target people that are more likely to sell. In essence, what I did now is I've, made this farm, which initially was 1,400 records, down to maybe a more, bite-sized chunk of 157 people for a mailer or something like that. Buy and hold investors, another great one too. So buy and hold investors are property owners that own 2 or more properties in this map area. So let's say you're reaching out to a neighborhood near you, a great way just to see who the investors are, the people that not only own multiple properties, but seem to like buy multiple, they might sell multiple, they might keep buying more in the future. So a great way to focus on the property owners that are doing this investing in this area. Like I said, once again, you can always click properties, get a nice view of which of these properties are owned by this buy and hold investor group. Or like I said, you see them on the map here, right? So let's say I'm looking at the farm, I see that there's this gray dot on this house. That means that this is one of those properties that is owned by a buy and hold investor. And I can click on it. I'll be taken to the page here for this specific property. And what's nice is I can even see where this property owner lives. Finishing up with some filters. Really good one here. This is a new one to this system. Own 55 plus and not in a trust. This is an awesome new filter. So these are people, like it says, properties with owners who have owned their homes for 20 plus years and do not hold their properties in a trust. So it's somewhat assuming that they're 55 years of age or older just by the length of ownership, but they don't hold a property in a trust, so twofold. 55 plus means they can benefit from things like Proposition 19 eligibility, where they can sell their primary residence, buy a new primary residence, and maintain their low property tax base. So a great target group to reach out to about that and let them know how Prop 19 works and maybe develop that niche. On top of that, not in a trust. So these are people that could benefit from some estate planning as well, letting them know about some of the downsides of maybe not owning their property in a trust and estate planning, probate, etc. You can also filter based off of any like properties you've specified or leads, the properties you want to reach out to. A couple of premium filters that are included. ready to sell filter. This is a good one where it takes it a step further than that time to move filter, where it's just mainly looking at the average length of ownership. The ready to sell will look at that average length of ownership, but it's also looking at what's selling in the area, what's selling quickly, hot properties, etc. So it's finding properties where not only the average, the owner meets that demographic of who's likely to sell based off ownership history, but also their properties in high demand. So nice little combination. Or free and clear properties. So I can click this and now I see the properties in this map area that don't have a loan associated with that property. So really good equity positions to sell their property. Just to show you some additional filters that are on the farms that are part of the premium would be, if you go down to this premium filters, for example, properties that are in pre-foreclosure and foreclosure are available as a part of the pre-version or premium version. So if I click pre-foreclosure, for example, I'll see which properties have a notice of default filed on that property. Or I can filter by equity, for example, with the premium version. So let's say I wanted to see the properties that have negative equity, for example. Ultimately, the mechanics of this, is going to be creating a farm, seeing who owns the properties, getting a sense of the lay of the land of that neighborhood. I'll pull up the phone version so you can see. Like this is you were using it on a phone. This is what it would look like. You have the same account here. I can come in here to farming and I can come down to my farm here and I'll have all those same features, and it would show you on the map as you're walking too. So like as you're in this neighborhood, you'd be able to see each of these properties. And like, let's say I was on this street here in Myler and I was about to go knock on this door, very helpful where I can just come in here and click on this property. I think it's just because I'm in, oh, cool. Yeah, I could click on the property, be taken to it. And as I, before I even go to the door, I basically get a snapshot of that entire property's history, ownership history, their equity position, etc. And then on top of that, I can keep notes for that conversation. And then you can always export these. So let's say, you needed to send this list to a print shop, for example, or you wanted to upload it to a different system you're using. So you can always click export here. This gives you the ability to download that data away from here. Let me go back onto the desktop version. So you can export it just as a basic file to your computer. That's where you'll be able to see all the names on there and you can send it to somebody. You can also, let me go back to export. I can also export it as mailing labels. So let's say you wanted to, do a letter campaign or postcard campaign. You can choose whether you want them as Avery 5160 labels or this label format. You can hover over it and see which of those label prints it would be printing to. And also too, it's helpful, you can choose whether you want that mailing to go to the property address or the mailing address in cases where it's non-owner occupied. And I can choose to mail to the just primary owner or maybe both people on title. So nice way where you can really kind of customize your labels as you're creating that export. And now I'll have those mailing labels. I can download them and print them for that farm area. And another export you can do would be for a company specific CRM. Actually, let me pull up that download so you can see. So here's those mailing labels that I just downloaded for this farm. And now for each of those addresses, now I get all of those properties, the addresses, the owners, etc. And I can print that on that mailing label sheet right there. And then lastly, you can export to CRM. So that would be let's say you're taking advantage of maybe a company specific CRM, like some people here use Keller Williams Command. You can download this specifically for that platform. Export to CRM. I'll choose Keller Williams Command and you can customize it. Let's see customize. So you can choose which columns will be brought onto that file. Let's say you wanted to exclude some, but I'll just choose them all and I'll click create export. So now in a couple seconds, this should download for me. Awesome. Okay, so here's that file and it'll look something like this. So now I'll have all that farm information formatted specifically for that brokerage CRM. I think also too, an important thing to have an awareness of when you're using this platform is when you're exporting, it does matter if you have a filter currently for that farm. So let's say, for example, I wanted to make sure I was going to export mailing labels because I wanted to do a mailing just to the non-owner occupied properties. So I want to make sure I click that filter first. And now I'm seeing just the non-owner occupied properties in this farm, the 120 of them. And these numbers here correlate to how many meet this filter, by the way. So now as I click export, now when I export, it's just going to give me, if I did mailing labels, for example, just the non-owner occupied properties on those mailing labels, right? So kind of a key point to be aware of. If you have filters applied to a farm and you export, it's only going to give you the labels for that specific filter. So if you wanted, to download the complete farm, you need to make sure you go back, clear the filter, and then download, for example. Say I was doing a mailer to non-owner occupied properties. Maybe I'd want to make sure, I choose the mailing label format that I want. Like maybe I have Avery 5160 again. I'll click this. Like in this case, I'd want to make sure I click that mailing address, right? It's a non-owner occupied property. I need the mail to go to wherever they live, wherever they get their mail. And I can just go through that same process again. And this is a nice part of this labels export too. You can remove any records where the owner is a corporation or LLC or duplicates as well. So cut down on some excess mail for you.
Oh.
And now I have a shorter list of labels because now it's just showing me the non-owner occupied properties. So a really nice way to kind of create some nice targeted groups, for example. And one last thing I'll leave you with, you do have the ability always to create your own filters. So these are these pre-created ones that will be in every farm you create. You'll by default have the ability to filter by occupancy status, length of ownership, and then on top of that, these touch points like we talked about, and some of these down here. You can also create your own filters on top of it. So let's say down the road, maybe I'm, the king of coastal San Pedro, etc. I've been, mailing there, door knocking forever. I list properties there and I farm here consistently and I just keep this in my account. But let's say one day I have a client that maybe wants me to reach out to this farm area on their behalf to start, seeing about, finding them an off-market property, for example. I can always create my own filters for that here. So once again, I'll go to filters and you can click adjust. This gives you the ability to, add some filters once again. So I can come in here and let's say I have a client, like I said, that's looking for a 3+ bedroom, 2+ bathroom property, and maybe they, want a newer home, for example, or like I said, maybe they have like a top end price range of $1.1 million. So I'll put 1.1 million, for example, and I can save this now as a filter for this farm. But a nice feature is I can choose just to save it for this farm or every single farm in my account. So I'll say this is for my buyer, buyer's farm, and I'll make this just available to this farm. So now I have this filter applied to this just for this specific client. So a nice way where you can create your own custom filters within the app. Forget where to access this, lunatitleteam.com. This is what it looks like on the phone too. So same thing. If you're on the go, you're on your phone, you can come in here to our lunatitleteam.com site, click our tech tools. This is that Farm InHere platform we just looked at. You can launch it and it'll take it to it on the phone for you.